Shirley, how are things going? How did this album come about? What's been going on in your world?
These are big questions. I am fine, thank you for asking. This record came about because we have been a band now for about 25 years, and this was our seventh record. And we had been doing a lot of touring. We came off the road and we went up to Palm Springs in California and did about 2 weeks of writing, and that created the body of this record. And here we are. It's hard to believe that at this point in our career we're getting the chance to put out another record, and a record that we feel is really prescient at times. And we're somewhat surprised we managed to get it finished just under the wire. We went into lockdown a couple of weeks after and finishing, and it feels really surreal, but we feel so lucky that we are here at this point in our lives and we have something to do. You know, we've been sitting on cooling our heels for a year and a half, so it feels great to actually have purpose every day when we wake up currently, you know.
It's a great album, honestly. I'm not just saying that. I've really enjoyed listening to it, and we've been playing it here on Stereo Underground, and it's going down very well. And I want to say to you, Shirley, that you say that you feel lucky that you've been able to do this, but surely being able to be creative and to have that time during a global pandemic, I mean, you've got to have an excuse. If you come out of a global pandemic, when you've been gifted the time to be creative and to come up with things, if you haven't been able to do it during a global pandemic, when you've been forced to have the time to actually spend it thinking up and being creative, then when can you be creative?
Well, you know, conversely, I would argue that when you're given all that time and you have no excuses, I think that can be crippling for a lot of artists. And I know that a lot of creative people I know have really struggled to keep themselves together during this time. I think it's different for everybody. And like I said, I'm just grateful we actually had it more or less in the bag before the pandemic hit, because I turned into a bit of like a zombie. I wasn't really able to do too much. And so, yeah, I think artists around the world have to go easy on themselves. It's not been as easy as everyone thinks. Or, you know, you watch someone like Taylor Swift just absolutely bloom in this environment. But I don't think it's been like that for everyone. And, you know, that's the great thing about art, is it moves at a different pace for everyone, and different results, appear at different times. So there you have it. I'm excusing myself.
No need to excuse yourself at all. Obviously, the pandemic has changed things for so many people, but also the music industry must have changed so dramatically since the 90s. You must have seen so many changes. Has it changed for the better? How has it changed, in your opinion?
Oh my God, I don't think we've got the time to go into that. It's so complex. I mean, suffice to say that the basis of the industry remains the same, which is there's a bunch of amazing creatives who all they want to do is make music. And then there's a whole industry around them that utilizes their talents and exploits it in a lot of cases to make money, you know. And the way the system is currently set up is not in favor of the artist at all. It's kind of a crime spree. But like I said, I just don't think we quite have the time on this short interview to get into all of that. But, that's for another day, my darling.
Okay, no, fair point. And also, I've seen many interviews with you over the years, not to make you feel old, obviously, but I am
old. You don't need to, darling, you can't make me feel old. I am old.
Oh, no, don't say that. Well, I have seen a lot of interviews with you, and you often reference that in those early days, you didn't have the confidence that people thought you had.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm amazed. When I look back, I look so confident. I'm like, wow, I can understand now why people were like, wow, she's so, confident and so sure of herself. But I think it was like defense. It was sort of, I was so scared and freaked out that I just went into defense mode. And so, all the shutters came down and I had a defense up, and that was perceived as real confidence and strength. And in fact, I think I was a shivering mess inside.
What advice would you give to others that are maybe following in your footsteps? Because you've obviously experienced that firsthand. And I think we seem to have a better attitude towards mental health issues now, the understandings of what goes through someone's mind from a creative artist's perspective. But what advice would you give to people that you see perhaps that are chewed up and spat out by the system?
Oh my God. I mean, again, that's a whole other conversation. I mean, there's so many different pieces of advice I would probably share, but each piece of advice is so specific to a specific situation, you know. I do worry that a lot of the artists currently are very, very young, and that's never a good situation, because when you're young, you're naive and you can be taken advantage of in a multitude of ways. So the taste, including the public taste, I hasten to add, for young, really, really young artists, and by that I mean teenagers, I think is mildly perverse, quite frankly. And it really, really causes me a lot of concern.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, isn't it? When you hear so much discussion about mental health, you hope things would get better. But perversely, at the same time, people may presume they're getting better, but they might not actually be.
Well, I think at least the dialogue is opening up, which I think is fantastic. You know, that people are able to say, look, I'm freaking out, I need help. That's new. That never existed in the times that we emerged. So that's great. You know, the more dialogue, the better in all aspects, I think, of life.
Well, let's talk about the new album. The Men Who Rule the World has already been out. It's getting a great reaction, although if you look on some corners of the internet, you're going to find people that are vlogging and blogging about your tracks in incredible detail, because you have got a fantastic following, haven't you, Shirley? But you will come across people that say, are they being a bit too angry now? The venomous lyrics from Shirley Manson. And it's quite often you see these middle-aged men in glasses that are vlogging on YouTube or wherever and coming out with these wonderful lines, and you think, venomous vocals. What a fantastic way to describe a performance. I mean, do you look at that kind of stuff? How does that affect you? Do you take that on board? What do you think? What kind of reaction are you after?
I'm not after a reaction at all. I couldn't care less, you know, how many, you know, old white men get crossed by some of the lyrics on this record. You know, if they get crossed, I'm like, more power to my sword. You know, I'm happy to ruffle a few feathers. I think a few feathers need to be ruffled. And you know, it's true. For centuries, we've had, you know, we've been ruled over by men, and we're all currently in a bit of a mess. And it would be really great if they brought on board a few other, you know, voices into power that could help solve the problems. Some marginalized voices would be, you know, across the spectrum representation, I think would be good for everyone. You know, the fact that we don't have a lot of women in power, I think, is madness. I mean, have you seen how mothers can cope with multitude of problems at once? Like, let's get that brain power and that ability into parliaments all over the globe, for God's sake, instead of just all old white men. All right, we're over you. You've had centuries you've had your say. You've messed it up. Like, let's move on.
Very true. Well, look, Shirley, the new album is out now. We're enjoying playing it here on Stereo Underground. I bet one thing that you must still be looking forward to, though, is getting back out and performing live and getting back to those gigs with your fans, with the audiences. You must have missed that in the past year.
Yeah, I have really missed that. I mean, I love playing live. It was what I was born to do. It's what I'm good at, you know. But I have to say, we've had an incredible support from all the fans. It kind of blows me away. I'm kind of surprised by it, I must admit. The loyalty and the enthusiasm for the band sort of is shocking to me, and really grateful if they've kept us being able to do what we love to do, you know. So eternally grateful to anyone out there who's ever bought a garbage record. Thank you so much.
Shirley, thank you very much for joining us on Stereo Underground. It's been a pleasure to chat.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.